The hidden power of Black authenticity. Why embracing your full self is your greatest strategic advantage. Today, I want to share some extraordinary insights that have fundamentally shifted my understanding of what it means to succeed as a Black professional in America. These revelations come from my recent profound conversation with Spinelli B, a visionary leader who has dedicated their life to transforming how Black professionals, particularly Black women, approach authenticity in their careers. Spinelli B isn't just another diversity consultant or career coach. They are a revolutionary thinker who has created spaces where vulnerability becomes strength, where authentic leadership isn't just accepted, it's celebrated as the competitive advantage it truly is. Their work has touched thousands of lives, dismantling barriers and reimagining what success looks like for Black professionals across industries. What struck me most in our conversation was a perspective that challenges everything we've been taught about professional success. It's a perspective that might feel dangerous, even reckless at first, but has the power to transform not just individual careers, but entire systems. Here it is. Authenticity is not a liability, it's your most powerful asset as a Black professional or entrepreneur. Let that sink in for a moment. Many of us have been taught implicitly or explicitly to downplay our stories and experiences to fit into traditional definitions of success. We've been told that certain parts of ourselves don't belong in professional spaces, that our hair, our speech patterns, our cultural references, our lived experiences, these things need to be muted, modified, or hidden entirely if we want to advance. We've been sold the myth of code switching as survival. We've been taught that assimilation is the price of admission, that success requires us to leave crucial parts of ourselves at the door. But what if everything we've been told is wrong? What if the very things we've been hiding are actually our greatest sources of strength and connection? This is the revolutionary idea that Spinelli B shared with me, that embracing your full story, especially the parts you've been told to hide, can become your greatest strategic advantage, opening doors for connection, innovation, and leadership in ways that conventional approaches simply can't. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds nice in theory, but in the real world, showing up authentically as a Black woman comes with real risks. And you're absolutely right. The data confirms this. Studies consistently show that Black women face some of the highest rates of workplace discrimination, microaggressions, and barriers to advancement. But here's where it gets interesting. The solution isn't to hide more effectively, it's to leverage your authentic experience strategically. Let me tell you about Katara Holland, a Black woman entrepreneur who navigated startup life with severely limited access to capital and mentorship within an ecosystem that wasn't designed for her success. Like many of us, Katara struggled with persistent imposter syndrome. She faced the typical challenges of most founders: limited resources, market uncertainties, competitive pressures, but with the added layer of systemic barriers around funding and networks that disproportionately impact Black women entrepreneurs. What did she do? Instead of trying to fit herself into existing models of entrepreneurship, she leveraged storytelling platforms like the Pink Parachute Diaries podcast for visibility. She built safe spaces that normalized vulnerability alongside ambition. She spoke openly about her challenges, not as weaknesses, but as evidence of her resilience and unique perspective. The results were remarkable. Hundreds of other Black women found actionable advice tailored specifically toward their journeys as ambitious professionals, balancing legacy building ambitions with everyday realities. Katara's work was deeply rooted in creating opportunities she once needed herself after experiencing exclusion from traditional entrepreneurial circles. Through her podcast and online content, she grew her audience reach exponentially. She mentored dozens directly through workshops and events. Most importantly, she helped shift industry norms around what leadership looks like among underrepresented founders by fostering new models based on authenticity rather than assimilation. This is what Spinelli B means when they say that your lived experience is a unique source of strength and strategy. Don't minimize what makes you different. Leverage it as an asset in building trust, community, and influence. But authenticity alone isn't enough. Spinelli B emphasized another critical insight. Building authentic networks is essential, not optional, for overcoming systemic barriers. This brings me to the powerful work of Regina Rivers. Regina's journey spotlights what many of us know intimately as the Black tax, the emotional and financial burden placed on Black professionals due to systemic workplace barriers. The Black tax manifests in countless ways. The extra scrutiny our work receives, the additional emotional labor of navigating microaggressions, the pressure to represent our entire race in predominantly white spaces, the financial impact of being passed over for promotions despite equal or superior qualifications. These aren't just inconveniences, they're significant hurdles impacting career advancement, generational wealth, and community well being. Regina's advocacy grew out of firsthand experiences navigating exclusionary corporate environments where informal networks often determined advancement opportunities. Rather than accepting these conditions, she advocated for targeted programs supporting equity and built strong professional networks fostering mutual support and actionable knowledge sharing among peers. The outcomes speak for themselves. Organizations adopting these strategies demonstrated measurable improvements in inclusivity. Participants involved with these initiatives reported increased career mobility and satisfaction. Through public speaking, media engagement, and policy proposals, Regina has helped redefine best practices around diversity and inclusion while empowering more equitable workplaces across multiple industries. This illustrates Spinelli B's point perfectly. True progress happens when we create spaces where vulnerability and ambition can coexist, where we can speak honestly about our challenges without fear of reinforcing negative stereotypes, where we can celebrate our victories without being labeled as boastful or aggressive. But there's a third insight from my conversation with Spinelli B that ties everything together. Systemic challenges require collective solutions. The obstacles faced by Black professionals aren't personal failures, but reflections of broader systems. And together, we have the power to change those systems through visibility, collaboration, and advocacy. This brings me to Tell Us Something, a community storytelling initiative based in Missoula that demonstrates how sharing personal narratives creates supportive environments crucial for healing collective traumas experienced by marginalized groups, including communities of color. Participants in this program often carried unspoken trauma stemming from social marginalization and exclusion, which significantly impacted their confidence and professional growth potential. Through facilitated group sessions focused on grounding exercises and storytelling techniques, individuals, including leaders, were able to reclaim agency over their stories and public identities. The outcomes were transformative. Participants who previously felt isolated created lasting connections. They reported improved sense of belonging and self-efficacy. The initiative has expanded beyond its initial cohort. via regular events and workshops integrating embodiment practices with narrative sharing among diverse audiences, including local entrepreneurs and leaders seeking holistic support frameworks. Tell Us Something has set a precedent for similar initiatives nationwide aiming at empowering underrepresented voices while normalizing conversations about mental health and resilience within professional contexts, especially relevant for BIPOC communities seeking sustainable empowerment models outside mainstream paradigms. This beautifully illustrates what Spinelli B emphasized in our conversation: the power of collective storytelling to transform not just individual careers, but entire systems. So, what does all this mean for you? How can you apply these insights to your own journey as a Black professional or entrepreneur? First, recognize that your authentic self is not just acceptable in professional spaces, it's your competitive advantage. Your unique perspective, shaped by your experiences navigating systems not designed for you, gives you insights that others simply don't have. Second, invest in building authentic networks. Not just any networks, networks where you can show up fully as yourself, where vulnerability is welcomed alongside ambition, where your whole story is honored. Third, remember that the challenges you face aren't personal failures. They're systemic issues that require collective solutions. By sharing your story, by making your journey visible, you contribute to changing those systems for everyone who comes after you. As Spinelli B so powerfully articulated, when we hide parts of ourselves to fit into systems that weren't designed for us, we not only diminish our own power, we miss the opportunity to transform those systems entirely. I want to leave you with this thought. What if the greatest act of resistance isn't fighting the system from the outside, but transforming it from within by refusing to fragment yourself? What if your authenticity is not just a personal choice, but a revolutionary act that creates pathways for others? The world doesn't need more Black professionals who have mastered the art of making themselves small enough to fit into spaces that weren't designed for them. The world needs Black professionals who bring their full, authentic selves to every table, who use their unique perspectives to reimagine what those tables look like altogether. Today, I challenge you to identify one aspect of yourself that you've been hiding in professional spaces. That cultural reference you avoid making, that hairstyle you've been afraid to wear, that story about your upbringing you never share, that perspective informed by your lived experience that you've kept to yourself. Take that piece of yourself and instead of hiding it, strategically leverage it. Use it to connect more deeply with others. Use it to inform your approach to problem solving. Use it to differentiate yourself in your field. Because the truth is this: in a world that has tried to convince you that your difference is a deficit, your authenticity becomes your superpower. Your story isn't just worth telling, it's worth celebrating, worth amplifying, worth leveraging as the strategic advantage it truly is. The revolution begins when we stop asking for permission to exist fully in spaces that weren't designed for us and instead use our authentic selves to redesign those spaces entirely. The future belongs to those brave enough to be fully, unapologetically themselves. Will you join us?